Okay, I first want to apologize for how wobbly I handled the introduction of part one of Caught in the Performance Trap. My husband said, Jackie, you didn't introduce yourself. I think people know who I am. Jackie Kendall, President of Power Grove Ministry, believe it or not. And clearly, the performance trap, maybe not necessarily my issue, but anyways, part two. Caught in the performance trap based on search for significance. We went over the test a little bit, a couple of the questions. I was looking at the notes, there's just so much, and I decided, okay, I'm jumping to it. One of the characteristics of, well, let's get to the lie, for those of you who did not hear one. I must meet, and listen to the phrase, must, I must meet certain standards to feel good about myself. Who put the must in you? Was that you? Or did you feel it from the family of origin? Or did you feel it from a teacher at school that you never got over, how they treated you? Or maybe a church you went to that you must? Where's the must come from? Like, I love God and I love people, but I never feel the same. I must love God and I must love people. There's that performance, that trap. Good God. Well, I'm sure that's not most of you, but you might know someone who's really struggling in this area. One of the dominant things, characteristics, last week I closed on it, ended on it, is pride. And pride is kind of blinding. Like Paul the Apostle and Barnabas, we talked about Paul and Barnabas and John Mark bailing on him, and then later on Barnabas wants to give him another chance, and Paul just like, no way, he's a quitter, he's off the team. Of course, later on Paul softens. You know, life has a way of softening us. We're grateful. But the performance trap, half the time you're in it, you're caught and you don't even know it. I'm going to give you a classic example, Moses. And I know you all are going to know, oh, I know what she's reading because she's reading through the Bible, and we're all in Exodus, so I'm sure she read about it. Yeah, but it was also my notes from long ago. Anyways, Jethro, his father-in-law, comes to visit Moses, and one day he's watching him, and all these people are coming to him for wisdom from God, and long lines are there, and Jethro's watching him. And he said to him, wow, there's a lot of people coming to see you. And Moses explains to his father-in-law, well, yeah, they're coming to get wisdom from God. So I represent them, so I'm trying to give them the wisdom of the Lord. That's why I'm here. Well, Jethro said, here, listen to me. This is not good. It's not, you're wearing yourself out. You're wearing yourself out, and you're also stressing out everybody around you. He didn't use the stress. He didn't use the word stress, but this is too much for you, Moses, and it's too much for everybody hanging around you. And that's a really good word, because when you're stressed, stress is only not about you. It stresses everybody else out. You're going through stress, you think you're just stressed out, you stress your spouse out, your kids, your friends, everybody knows you're stressed. So he tells him, you need to get some people to help you. And what's interesting is once Moses chose some men to help out with some of the minor things to deal with and only send the big ones to him, it's interesting towards the end, in Exodus 18:23, it says that the people then would leave him in peace. What happens? They left him with shalom, peace. Shalom means hello, and it also means peace. So when I learn to not live under such, pressure, got to measure up, got to reach the standard, got to do it in order to feel good about myself, in that drivenness, I'm driving people around me nuts. They're being driven away. They're running from you if you're stressed. They go to another room. In fact, they sit in the driveway and try to decide, do I really want to go inside? My wife sounded very stressed on the phone. Maybe I should sit out here before I go inside at the end of the day. What's interesting about this also is to decide, do I want people to leave me with shalom, or do I want them to leave grinding their teeth? How you feel actually is how people feel when they've been around you. Someone I know went to someone's house recently, and the hostess was kind of a little snarky. And immediately I said, oh yeah, it's because she's under stress. Because stress makes a snarky mouth. It's interesting that the stress of measuring up impacts your mouth, and you bristle your body language. Like, get out of the way, Dad's not looking good. So remember, I must meet certain standards. Who said? That's what I say to people. Who said you have to meet those standards? It's interesting. It's a terrible story, but it's in my notes from the 90s. I read about a chef, a French chef, who always got 5 stars in his restaurant. You know, he was the best. Nobody was, none were as good as he was. Well, then there was a rumor that he wasn't going to get his 5 stars that year. Like, are you kidding? And I always have gotten 5. No, he was so upset by the rumor that he killed himself. Later on, it comes out that he was going to get his 5 stars. He just barely heard a rumor, and because he didn't measure up to his standards, who set the standard that you always have to have a 5 star? Now, you say, well, that's pride, but pride is fueled by fear, and the fear of not being a 5 star, where everybody, hey, you're 4 stars is great. Anyways, perfectionists, to them, fear is fatal. You know how God feels about failure? He expects it, and he forgives it, and he uses it. Okay, so the perfectionist, what's interesting, the perfectionist doesn't understand that in their perfectionism, they think, God always, I always say this, God wants us to do our best. Yeah, and guess what? We're humans, so our best is never going to be perfect. Only you think it's perfect. The only perfect person ever was Jesus. But this is interesting. The perfectionist doesn't know that how they handle things sucks the life joy right out of the room. I mean, sucks it right out of the room. I always call them blessing busters, because if everything isn't done a certain way, doesn't measure up to a certain standard, they're all huffy and they're moaning, they're breathing deep, and snarkiness is on its way. So the perfectionist, even though it looks like, she just wanted to set a beautiful table, she just wants her house to be nice to receive the guests. No, it's all about me, my fear, I'm not measuring up, I didn't meet the standards, I didn't do it as good as so-and-so. And of course, social media definitely helps with that suffocating standard. Anyways, there's somebody who was actually made millions of dollars because of her perfectionism in the area of tidying up her house. Marie Kondo. I actually read her book. She wrote a book. Let's see, what is it called? Yeah. She wrote a book called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Well, that magic is not at my house. I read it. It's noble. It's honorable. But it's a full-time job. To tidy your house up the way she thinks it should be, I kept thinking that's a full-time job. But ironically, it was in the news recently, and I know some of you saw it. In fact, I went and read everything I could to make sure I was quoting her right. I don't want to misquote her, but listen to the statement. It's called The Queen of Clean. Admits that tidying up is no longer a priority. What? You got a bestseller called Tidying Up? The magic of it. It was in 40 languages. You made millions, and now the Queen of Clean is not tidying up her house. Well, listen to this quote. This is a classic. This is perfect for the performance trap. She said, with my first child, I was unable, this is a sad statement, I was unable to forgive myself for not being able to manage it all, keep it all perfect. Isn't that sad? She couldn't forgive herself, like she committed a sin because she forgot to put the bread back in the bread box, or something got left on the table, or there was a crumb under one. Okay, that's with her first child. With her second child, she realized, I have got to let go of my perfectionism. No kidding, girlfriend. But the third one's a classic. With my third child, I have grown to accept that I cannot tidy every day. At this time in my life, a home that is messy, my home is messy, but I'm enjoying my 3 kids. Oh, that women, well, I know sometimes men pressure women to measure up and have everything perfect and all that, but perfect house and fun with the kids, not always not in the same continuum. My first counselor actually was someone in college, and she said to me, please, I just got married, please don't make this mistake in the future with your children. I go, what mistake? She says, I felt that I had to have a perfect house. Everything had to be perfect, everything had to be picked up, everything had to be, just perfection. It had to be like a model home. And because of that, I spent more time worrying about my house being a model home than enjoying our only child. And boy, have I grown to regret that. And I think some people are more worried about their houses than their children. Now, I know other people that, hey, why would I worry about my house? It's not an issue for them, for sure. Another aspect of all of this, which is really interesting, because I started thinking of people in my life, like, yeah, that's really true. They avoid risk if there's a chance of not succeeding. avoid risk at every turn. And I have to confess that I did that. When I was in college, I was signing up for a class, it was biology, and someone said, oh, just get ready. He never gives A's to any student. He's proud of it. He never gives A. I was standing in that line. I got out of that line. I went and stood in another line because I'm not staying in line of a professor that never gives A's because I was set, what was my standard? I must get straight A's in college. Now, where in the world did that standard? To feel good about myself. What in the world was that from? Why? Because a millionaire gave me my college education. He heard me speak. God touched his heart. Long story short, 4-year education, clothing, plane flights, I could pizza, it was all. So in my head, it's like, oh, to be of worth, I have to get straight A's. He never said I had to. That was mine. And some of you listening right now have some standard that your own personal 10 commandments that we blame God for, and maybe even the church you go to, or your parents, but you came up with them. You made that list along the way. And social media helped lengthen the list. Another thing comes out of all this, unfortunately, is depression. You just can't, this world, try to be perfect in this world, keep the standards, measure up, do it. I'm already exhausted thinking about it. There's someone in my life who has battled off and on with depression, and I thought, and is a perfectionist and can never get it all right. And I'm like, cut yourself some slack. Why? It's like a taskmaster. She's like a pharaoh with a whip, beating her. Like, what are you doing? Well, I know someone who was playing the piano one time and afterwards got highly criticized for maybe not doing it as well. It was done in the church. That did it. That criticism did not measure up, never played piano ever again. Took that gift, locked it in the attic. And that's sad, not measure up. Who gave her that standard? Family of origin. Didn't do it perfect enough? How depressing. When you don't use the gift that God has given you, it is depressing. Another thing, and last but not least, is that realizing that some people who are heavy into chemical dependency and drugs and they have terrible addictions, it's fueled by the failure. That there's such fear of failure, they'd rather be drugged up than think about the failure in their life. And half the things that they think is failure was somebody else's opinion and not what God said. Not what God said. It's not the truth. As my granddaughter Abigail would say, oh my goodness, if God is for you, what can be against you? Romans 8:31, give it to me, girlfriend, give me 5. So there's so many people who are so discouraged and they can't even face tomorrow without some drug use or alcohol, whatever, help them get through the day because they're so down on themselves. Who did that? Who told you that lie? These are lies. I must measure up. The accuser of the brethren uses human beings. And the accuser of the brethren, for those of you who need to know where it is, Revelations 12, 10 and 11. He accuses God's kids day and night. Pick at them, criticize them. Who does he use to do that? People. And you go like this, what? The devil uses people? Of course he does. Peter spoke to Jesus in Matthew 16 and said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said to him, flesh and blood has not revealed this unto you, but my Father in heaven. A couple of verses later, in the next breath, oh man, Jesus, you can't go to Jerusalem. I don't want you to go there to die. And he said, get thee behind me, Satan. You speak not the things of men, but the things that you speak not things of God, but the things of men. In the same breath. Boy, God gave you that. Satan gave you that. So God uses people to deliver barbs that keep you constantly, breathlessly trying to measure up. But let me tell you, he's a liar. In fact, whenever he accuses me of something, Jesus yells, he's my lawyer, 1 John 2:1. He says, I object. He just shuts him down. Shh, don't you say that against my girl. That one's mine. I purchased her with my blood. And if I spared not my blood, how much more will I give her all things freely? Romans 8:32. Check that one out. Okay, so winding this up, the performance trap. The person who's caught in the performance trap will have a hard time with this little quote. But it is so liberating that I got it from the book Healing Grace by David Seamans, and you can tell how much it touched me. See the big wow? When I read it, I was like, wow, that's an answer to the performance trap. It is the most poetic expression I've ever read for the healing of the performance-based acceptance, which is nothing but adult peer pressure. That's what the performance trap is. It's adult peer pressure. Listen to this. This is the difference between a servant and a child, or the son. We'll call it daughter for right now. The servant is accepted and appreciated on the basis of what he does. The daughter on the basis of who she is. The servant starts the day anxious, worried, wondering if her work will really please her master. The child, the daughter, rests in the secure love of her family. The servant is accepted because of his workmanship. The daughter because of her relationship. The servant is accepted because of his productivity and his performance. The daughter belongs because of her position as a person. I love this part. At the end of the day, the servant has peace of mind only if she is sure she has proven her worth by her work. The daughter can be secure all day and know that tomorrow won't change her status. No matter what I do today or tomorrow, I'm still a daughter from an unshakable kingdom. I'm a child of the King, which makes me a princess, which my husband used to call me, and I'd say, please don't say that out loud. He used to write that on little Valentine cards, and always, to my princess. I'm like, oh, please don't say that out loud. And then years later, I'm studying the word and realizing I am a princess from a kingdom that is unshakable. So, next time, we're going to look at the approval addict. This is actually peer pressure to the max. So if you got the courage, come back. Blessings. Love you.